Hello everybody. Thanks again for joining us for our Protractor webinar series for 2017. I haven't been doing this in the past, but I'll do it this time. My name is Doug Cresci. I work with the Protractor software, do most of the implementations, a lot of the training, and work a little bit with the support department. And I'll be your host today, as I've been for the last couple of webinars. So today we're going to talk about reminders. A lot of information to share. And personally, I think this is one of my favorite areas in the software. It's a area that I think can be used well. And I might even throw in a couple of personal interjections here to how we can relate to this in other industries. As usual, we're going to spend about 45 minutes on the instruction. We're going to take some time at the end of the webinar to answer some questions. And I'm assuming everybody knows these webinars are posted in the help system for you and your staff to reference at a later time. I was talking to one of our shop users yesterday, and he was saying his staff aren't able to attend. They've got to run the counter, but they do go into the help system and watch the videos, read the handouts, and he had said it's a big help. So hopefully you guys are taking advantage of that also. Let's go ahead and get started. For today's agenda, we're going to do a little Shop Manager 101. Reminders is a very broad subject, and a lot of people look at it from very different angles. So I want to try and narrow down on how Shop Manager, Protractor, and Enterprise Pro work with the reminders and give you a little insight to that. We're going to talk about reminders in action. How do we use them? How do we set them up? How can we manipulate them? How are they going to best give us the information and work for us? So one of the items we're going to cover is adding reminder items to a service item or vehicle. We're going to talk a little bit about editing reminder items. Skipping a reminder item, which is going to come when you apply a reminder group. There might be items in there, and I'll make an example of that for you today. Deleting reminder items, possibly those items you skip, you want to get off of the reminder list because they don't apply to the vehicle, or if you change your mind or your customer changes their mind about that particular reminder. Remedying reminders, which allows us to manually update a reminder, meaning maybe the customer had that service performed somewhere else or before you had your Shop Manager software. So you can manually bring all those reminders up to date so your due dates will accordingly pop up for you. Reminder item triggers. What makes the reminder item automatically update so we can see the new due date for each of the reminders? Booking a next appointment using the reminders. This is probably one of the biggest areas that people are fearful of, but we'll try and shed some light on that and see if we can give you guys some ideas on how you can apply that. Using reminders on subsequent visits. So all items 1 through 7, we're going to walk through on a particular vehicle, and then we're going to show you how that works on the next time the customer comes in or any subsequent visits down the road. And then, of course, we're going to spend a little bit of time on how to set up the reminders to where you can customize your own reminder items, your own reminder groups, and spend a little time on that particular area. I want to go to a poll question right away. So I'm going to try this time. So I'm going to launch this poll question. As you guys can see on the screen, how often do you guys use the reminders? So we'll take a little bit of time to let you do some voting on this. Usually spend about 30 seconds here. Okay. All right. Now, I'm missing something here on how to actually show you guys the results of the reminder. This is a little bit new to me. So thanks to my assistant, you guys are able to see. So 10% of the people say on every vehicle, great. 25 say on some vehicles. That's excellent. Not everybody's going to be reminders. And then 65% of the group say they never use them. So our goal today is hopefully that we can get you guys interested and active in some of the reminders and hopefully find some benefit for them. So let's talk a little bit about Shop Reminders 101 and how Shop Manager deals with reminders. First of all, reminders are items used by the service staff to track and inform customers of specific services that are due. So reminders are not something that we send out to customers saying, hey, it's time to get your oil changed. It's time to get your tires rotated. That's not the way Shop Manager handles it. We apply reminders to a customer's vehicle, and then when the customer is face-to-face or on the phone, then we can inform them of specific services, hopefully that they've agreed to, that are due for service. Reminders can also be used when scheduling a next appointment from the invoice posting option. So if you have reminders set up, when you post that invoice, there is some settings in the software which we'll walk through that allow you to automatically set the next visit for your customer for whatever services are required. And we're going to spend some time on that area. Reminder items and groups are generic. They are not specific to any year, make, or model or manufacturer's maintenance intervals. So keep that in mind. They are not specific to any vehicle. They are just general items and intervals that we want to track with the customer. I'm going to make a note here, factors to keep in mind when setting up your reminders, that you can use the manufacturer service intervals, and I don't know if you guys know this, but it's going to appear right on your screen. So it's going to tell you the manufacturer's intervals, or you have access to all of the manufacturer intervals as long as it's a cataloged vehicle that you're working on. Reminder item intervals can be applied and monitored using a time, meaning a specific date, or usage, meaning a specific odometer, mileage, or kilometers, either one. Or in the case of like an oil change, you can use time and usage. You guys will see when we go through this, I'm going to have a usage specific to a tire rotation. I'm going to have a time and usage specific to other services, an example, an oil change. And yet another way of setting up your reminder intervals will be a fixed date. Fixed dates come in for things like a provincial or a state safety inspection, something where it's due on a specific date. We here in Texas have to get our vehicles inspected every year. So on the windshield, we have the month and the year, and if you don't get that updated, then you're going to get a ticket. So that would be where I'd apply a fixed date interval when I would do my reminders. Let's dive right into this. I'm just going to go right into the software. I'm going to give you guys some examples. I'm going to use my vehicle, and the data we're looking at is real data. This is a live database, and it is a repair shop that works on my vehicle. And I'll just tell you guys, I drive a long way to get to this guy because I know how he does the business. So what we want to talk about first of all is how do we apply reminder items and reminder groups? And the coin phrase here is going to be that I can apply reminders to a vehicle or a service item from several different areas. Without laboring on that, I'm just going to show you guys and we'll make some examples. I can go to a contact. I'm going to bring up my contact in the software. So there I am, and here's my vehicle. So wherever I can touch or access the vehicle by doing an edit, I'm going to have the ability to go in and set up reminder items. Just without laboring it, but just so that everybody knows, other ways you can get to the reminders for the vehicle is actually from the work orders. If I want to go in and start a work order, so if a customer comes in, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the write-up process. Let me just go in again. I'll select myself. If I could only spell my name, okay. And let's just say I'm bringing my vehicle in for service. There's the vehicle that I'm going to work on. So if I select that vehicle, okay, I've got a work order in the system already, but I just wanted to show you everywhere you can access the reminder items. So when I go through this, wherever I get to the reminders, I have the ability to add a reminder, edit, delete once I've got reminders on. Again, I can touch the vehicle right here. So wherever I can touch or access the vehicle, I have the ability to either add, edit, delete, or simply view and monitor the reminders. Okay, now I've already got a work order going, so I'm going to cancel on this one. I just wanted to show you it's available, and I've got a work order already in the system. So if I've got a work order open, I still have the ability to get to reminders from the work order. And again, wherever I can access the vehicle, I have the ability to get to the reminders. So there's no shortcuts. The ability to get to the reminders, keep in mind, is anywhere you can access the vehicle, or from a work order, you can use the reminders right from the work order insert menu group. Let me close this up for a little bit here, and let's talk about adding reminders. I'm going to do this differently just so that everybody sees how this all takes effect. I'm actually going to go out to contacts, even though I have a work order in progress, and I'm going to do an edit on my vehicle. Select reminders from the view menu group, and at the bottom I can select add. Let me draw everybody's attention to something I said earlier, meaning one of the factors that you may want to keep in mind when you set up the reminders is the vehicle's scheduled maintenance intervals. And this is specific to this vehicle, this 2002 Toyota Tundra. Okay, so this is coming right from the data we collect on the manufacturer's service intervals. Now, this may be a little bit different depending on the vehicle. Some of the vehicles I've looked at will only show you a normal, so just keep that in mind, but always reference that. The manufacturer is saying under normal circumstances, and this is really always based upon the most frequent of all services, which I'm sure you all know is the oil change. So under normal driving conditions, 7,500. Under severe driving conditions, 5,000 is what the manufacturer is recommending. Now, if we wanted to add some reminder items to this particular vehicle, we're simply going to select add. When I come to my reminder search, I can type in a specific item. If I'm looking for a specific item, let's just say I want to do an air filter. That's all I want to come up on my list. So searching that is going to bring up air and cabin air filter. Once I select a reminder item, I'll select OK. And the system now defaults to let me select from a series of intervals that we have set up. When we set up the intervals, we simply put in time and usage to identify the next service. You guys will have control over this. This is just what we put in the default database. On an air filter, I'm going to, and you guys have your own preference, so I'm just going to say I want to do that maybe once every year, or I at least want to look at it once every year. Okay, you guys can select whatever you want off the list, and when I apply that, the system is now going to do a couple of things. Okay, one of those things is when I apply the reminder, okay, it's going to look into history. So it's going to go back on that vehicle and look into history and see, was there an air filter ever done on this vehicle? And if there is what we call a trigger, meaning a service that will reset the air filter interval, then it would automatically reset. I'm going to show you that in a minute, but you can see we haven't done an air filter on my vehicle. So what does the system do about that? Because it is populating a due date. Let's talk about the due date for a minute and understand how it does that. If there is no service on file that an air filter has ever been done in my Shop Manager software, the software is going to look to the general vehicle information. First of all, it's going to look for a production date. If there was a production date on file for this vehicle, the reminder would then use that as the default start date. Since I don't have a production date, the system then looks to the year of this particular vehicle, and that's what it uses as the start date. So this is a 2002 year model. So we might wonder, why does it say the date due is 2003? Well, it was built in 2002. The software is using the 2002. The reminder is set to 12 months or 12,000 miles. So the system says it should be done in 1 year of the manufacture date. So understand, when there is no history on file, the system is going to give you a due date, and as crazy as this might seem, we have no other choice. All we can do is say, look, this is a 2002 vehicle. We have no record of the air filter ever being replaced, so it's due. Often when I talk to customers about this, just think, if you never brushed your teeth before, you think you're due to brush your teeth today? So that's what it's doing. It's just simply taking the data that's available and providing the information to you. Let me give you another example of when there is history on file. I'm going to go back to add. I'm going to just bring up the big list, okay? Here are all the reminders. We're going to talk a little bit more about groups. All the groups will be identified. But let's go down a little ways here, because there's one item here that I want to draw your attention to, which is going to be an automatic transmission fluid flush. If I take that reminder item, select it, okay, how often do I want to do it? We all have our opinions. The manufacturer offers his opinion. Okay, in my world, I change all of my fluids every 60,000 miles. Any fluid, obviously I change my oil a little more often than that, but things like my transmission, differential, power steering, brake fluid, my theory is every 60,000 miles, and I've been doing that for a long, long time. So that's what I'm going to apply. You guys apply what you want. When I apply that, now look at what happens. I've got an automatic transmission flush or fluid exchange set at 60 months or 60,000 miles. You'll notice it automatically picks up the last service. So where does it get that? It gets that from history, and it's actually going to bring it from right here, which is where my transmission fluid was flushed. And I can see September 30th of 2014, and there's the odometer, well, actually here's the odometer reading, sorry, there's the invoice number. So when it can pick up history in your software, it's going to automatically stamp that last service date, and now I know, based upon my normal driving habits, that my transmission is due for service approximately, okay, 4/2 of 2019, or 226,000 miles, because all it's doing is taking the existing information, applying it against the reminder interval to tell me the next day that it's due. Let me point something out to you while we're on this screen. Does everybody see the little asterisk out here at the end of the 2? What the asterisk means is the software is actually using the information from my history. And what it's trying to do is calculate, based upon my particular driving habits, the next time that this service is going to be due. In other words, it's not always a hard 60 months, okay? It is a hard 60,000 miles, but based upon my driving habits, the system is trying to calculate when that service is going to be due. Now, this is not all that accurate, and let me show you why. Because in the software, you guys all saw, let me go back so you can see, I've only got one invoice in here from 2014. The software under the vehicle details is calculating an average of miles or usage per month. And all it's got so far is that I'm driving 36 miles per month. That's because I've only got the one visit. So the more visits that I have with the repair facility, the more history that I build, the more accurate these estimations are going to be on the next service due. So that's what the asterisk means. So you're going to see if there is no history, it's not going to give you a last service. It's going to give you a due date based upon the vehicle production date first. If there is no production date, it'll use the current year. If a reminder item is put onto the vehicle where there is history, then it can use that information to calculate the next date. There's another nice feature while I'm here and on this kind of side topic. Okay, if I want to look at that invoice, just hover over it. You all see that the underline, which is a hyperlink, comes in. And I can simply click on that, And there's that invoice where that transmission service was done. So I can actually access the invoice from the reminders too. I can close it up. So access the invoice simply by clicking on the item. Okay. All right. I'm going to take a little bit of a different turn, and I'll talk about this a little bit